Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Ruth George. I'm the vice chair, and I'm sitting in for Paul, who is going to be late this evening. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tonight is the Tuesday, February 4th, 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting. And could everyone please stand, pledge of allegiance, and do a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we can go right into, next thing is public comment. Toby? Just go over to the podium and. Doesn't sound like you're, I know.
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I have 2 points. I see on the action list that you're going to approve a permit for the Rockport Music to have some sort of an event in Millbrook Meadow. I feel strongly that any events on public property where people are making money, there should be fees and the town should be collecting. I've said this before, you've brushed it aside, I repeat it. The other point, I'll read you a section from, it's chapter 2, section 5B, small Roman numeral 4, from the Rockport Code of Bylaws, not zoning, Town Government and Bylaw Committee. And section 4 of duties, the Town Government and Bylaw Committee shall review all warrant articles which would, if adopted, effect or require changes in these bylaws. The committee shall also be responsible for the decennial review of the bylaws and for the review of proposed changes in the charter. Second paragraph, this is the important part. The committee shall prepare a written report stating the committee's recommendations for favorable or unfavorable action and the reasons therefore pertaining to any warrant articles which would, if adopted, affect changes in the bylaws or the charter. Now, at the last Government and Bylaw Committee, Mitch Vieira was there, your liaison was not. That was January 23rd. The committee decided that they are not going to advise the public or the town meeting on the content of warrant articles, changes to the bylaws. They're going to confine themselves only to the form of it, the numbering, the grammar, and so forth. Mitch Vieira, I trust, will explain it if I have not adequately done so. I think what I read makes it clear the intent of the bylaw, that we're to get good advice from the Government and Bylaw Committee whether we should adopt the articles or changes or not, just as we get advice from the Finance Committee. That's not their reading. 3 of them are lawyers, one of them, of those 3, a retired Superior Court judge. So perhaps it's presumptuous of me to know better, but I challenge you to read what I've just read and come up with a reading of it that would justify their reading. They're not going to offer us advice. And what they say is that you, the Board of Selectmen, will advise the public instead. I don't think that's adequate. Often the articles that come forward are articles that you've had drawn up or have drawn up for you. And we should have 2 sets of eyes looking. In a government, you look for checks and balances. You look for a second opinion. So if they're correct on this, it's a sorry state of affairs, and we should make haste to get it changed. They did, however, do one thing that would be a great help to the town. It's something I've been asking for years, but I can take no credit for it. Penny Pilsner, a member of the committee, came up with it on her own. She said they're going to hold public hearings on articles that come before them before they go to the town meeting. So that's a fine departure and all to the good. Win one, lose one. And I don't know that they have any budget. I believe they don't, so I suppose they'd be turning to either your board or the moderator for money to advertise for public hearings. And I'd like some response to my remarks about the Government and Bylaw Committee. I realize I'm not entitled this evening, but on another occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, so we'll go right into, we have a alcohol license hearing this evening. And I'd like to open the hearing. Mr. and Mrs. Lane, you can have a seat over there. And let me just read. We posted it in the paper. The Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen public hearing, Tuesday, February 4th, 2020 at 6:40 p.m. Rockport Town Office Building, Conference Room A, to discuss the application for Seaview Farm Boarding Stables, LLC, doing business as Seaview Farm, 38 South Street, for an annual license to sell wine and malt beverages in a gourmet specialty food store. Board of Selectmen, Paul Murphy, Chairperson. It was in the Gloucester Daily Times, January 16th, 2020. So do we have a motion?
We do. I move that the Board of Selectmen open a public hearing on the application of Seaview Farm Boarding Stables, LLC, for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at a gourmet specialty store.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll open the hearing, and we'd like to hear from Seaview Farms.
Well,
Mr. and
we
Mrs.
plan to have, push?
No,
Yeah.
No, you're all set. You're
just
green.
speak
Yeah,
into it.
just speak into it.
Speak into it,
The
okay.
viewers at home.
We plan to sell alcohol, beer, and wine in addition to what we normally do. We do plan to try local craft beers and also some local wines, as will go along with the whole theory of the whole picture of the farm. We have had all the people come in, the fire inspector, the building inspector, the police, and they were the ones that really had the most suggestions to us. They recommended surveillance cameras. Well, I think that was a must, actually.
Yep.
And then recommendation of a burglar alarm and where things should be located, what they thought. And so we have already implemented by having people come out, give us estimates on that, and depending on where we go with this, we will certainly implement that as well.
Right.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
I'll open up to the board. Do you have any, Denise?
Not at the moment, no. I guess I do, actually.
Okay.
So do you already have vendors in mind for the products that you want to sell?
We have some vendors in mind for local, but in dealing with the manufacturers, and no, we do not. I mean, we will certainly have to be reviewing that when the time comes. But as far, we've had a few local breweries show an interest
Yep.
in us selling their product, which we're happy to accommodate. But we haven't taken any really great big steps towards that because we don't really know that this is where we're going.
Yep.
One
Sure,
more
yep.
question. And when would this take effect if we were to approve it, Mitch?
So the license would be, approved, effective this evening if you approved it, but it would not be issued until we go through the entire process with finalizing the inspections and verifying the implementation of
Okay.
those plans. So treating it, which we've done to date, the same way that we did with the market license. Those 4 departments go through, they make their inspections, which my understanding they all have. I'm just waiting on one written report back from one department. We'll then go through, I'll go through as the board's agent to verify that steps are in place to carry out those requirements. And once everything is in place or with a satisfactory end date for certain requirements to be in place, we'll then issue the license on the board's behalf. So you'll grant it if you choose to effective this evening, and it'd be issued once everything has been signed off on and all requirements are met.
So once we've met all the obligations, as
Yes,
far
some
as-
of them we can individually, I would meet with you that, we may have a little bit of time, but there are certainly some, I know particularly, that the police department has indicated that are musts before we can
Absolutely.
press forward. So I would work with you to come up with some timelines on that.
Sure.
Done?
Please. So it was funny. So today I was in work in my day job, and Rockport came up and they said, "Yeah, it's a dry town. We can't go there." And it was obviously it was disheartening a bit because they didn't know, but I wanted to see the other side of it, and to me it presents an opportunity. And the opportunity is to get the word out that, not that we're promoting that we're an alcohol town. That's not the intention. The intention is to say that we're a full-service town, and we can offer that whole breadth of services that every other town does, Newburyport, Salem, wherever you want to do. So having things like this come about and seeing these opportunities being taken advantage of, I think it's great, and I wish you well on it.
Thank you.
Great. Any comments from the public? Toby?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. I voted against the alcohol and the additional licenses every time those things came forward right from the beginning, and still feel the same way. I don't think the town is better for it, but certainly the sky hasn't fallen, and it's the law, and I'm sure you'll grant the license. I'm not objecting to it at this point. What I do wonder about is the parking. And parking is not a standard for the alcohol licenses. It most certainly should be. That's something you should go back and look at. And I would ask you to ask the applicants about the parking. I believe the place is right on the street. And where would the cars park?
I can tell.
So
Well, Toby, I'll let Lane speak to that, but the market itself right now has parking in the back where you drive in, and there's lots of parking spaces in the back by the barn and going out the back, but you can say
I've
that.
never had trouble with
So,
parking.
if I can, I'm sorry, one second. The issue with that is, what about restaurants downtown that don't have
Yeah,
parking?
right, yeah.
They have spots outside, so it's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned.
But there is plenty of
I mean,
parking.
sure, we could explain a little more if you want, but there is
Please.
plenty. Just right on Lane's Farm Way, there's a yard right in the barnyard, there's plenty of room, and if people wanna go further by the silo down by the barn, there's plenty of parking, so.
Plenty
And
of
there's
parking.
absolutely
Yeah.
no parking on South Street.
Right,
And we've
right.
never had anybody actually park on South Street for the farm stand.
Right, yeah.
You know, I think we might have had one person and we're like, That's not parking."
Yeah.
You know, you have to, we just directed them in.
Right.
Which some people had a little trouble in the beginning. I think we've got that resolved now that you actually come in Lane's Farm Way
Yeah.
and park.
And you have the sign there, too.
We do, we have,
Yep,
that have the
says parking,
signage,
yep,
right.
yep. Yeah. Any other questions? Eric?
Yeah, Eric Hutchins, 45 Pools Lane. I'm lucky enough to have Cracker Jacks at the bottom of my driveway, but that's actually quite convenient. But I love the idea of having some other type, more local microbrews at our local farm stand. I think it'd be a fun place to pick up a beer now and then.
Great, thank you. Denise?
I guess what I would like to say is, I think it's really exemplary of how you've grown this business and how you've really focused on local products and, your own produce and your own beef, even though I don't eat meat. I just think it's really wonderful that you've done such a nice job and continue to try to keep that focus where you have it. And it's great to see a business flourish in Rockport, and I think we should do everything we can to support it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
you.
Yep.
It's a work in progress.
Yes, well, you're doing a great job.
I try to promote every business that I can in town that I see online, and you guys especially, because it's one of those businesses that you always put up interesting things and great events for the public. So
yeah,
thank you for what you
absolutely.
do and the contributions to the community. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions during this open hearing? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to, do I have a motion?
You
for
do.
Approve?
I move that
I'm sorry,
the
you
Board
just
of
close the
Selectmen
hearing first?
close
Oh, I need to close the hearing.
the public
Excuse me, I need to
hearing.
close the hearing.
I just did.
Okay,
Move that anyway.
okay.
Did you move it?
I
I'm
did.
sorry, second.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 And do I have a motion to approve?
You do. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and grant Seaview Farm Boarding Stables LLC application for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at Seaview Farm at 38 South Street Railroad Avenue, subject to the fulfillment of all conditions of Chapter 12 of the Acts of 2019 and all required inspections.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
All right.
Carries.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, thank you. Good job, thank you.
And
Great.
I guess we'll be seeing
Yes, with-
you.
Yes, just touch base with
Dave,
Debbie,
sure.
and we can talk from there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, this was fun, thank you.
Thanks. Come back every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
thanks
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. 3 to
Everything
nothing.
is good.
Thank you. Next on the list is Selectmen and Town Administrator Update and Liaison Report.
Good.
I
Rich,
have
Rich,
nothing
you going
since
first?
last week.
Nothing?
No.
Denise? Dawn?
Yeah, well, are you good, Mitch?
You can go ahead, I'll come after
Okay.
you.
Tonight, we judged the
yeah.
history contest.
I was there.
Denise, I'm sure, will jump in after this, and that's a good thing. It was great to see what our kids are doing. It was about history and the changing events that occurred. The ones that I had were actually really good. One was Jackie Robinson, one was Young Readers, and the other was the three-point line in the NBA and the history of how that all came about. And it was great to see how the teachers worked with the kids. They did it and whether it was by a project that you saw as a a standalone kind of thing. Some did a visual presentation with a what do you call it there, PowerPoint presentation. But it was great. It was a really fun time to see these kids and see their grasp of the subject matter and how well they spoke on it. So that was great. Our teachers do a great job in this town. Second, it was, I forget if it was Monday or Tuesday, I attended the graduation ceremony for Juan Esteban Mira, who is now an official Rockport Reserve police officer. He's going through his field training experience now with the chief, and it was great to attend that and really see everything in action. To see it's a big academy now. They kind of changed it, and they have corrections in there as well. They have police in there, and they have other government agencies. But it was great to be in that kind of a presence, to see these guys taking on such and girls. It was a lot of girls there. Was fantastic to see them taking on such a great career path. So I thought that was fantastic. I'm good.
Okay. I'll just do a couple. I went to the chair of the DPW Building Committee, and we interviewed last week 2 candidates for the owner's project manager. We have 2 companies, Atlantic and City Point, that we interviewed, and we have tentatively chosen City Point. We have asked them to give us a contract, and we're going to be talking with them tomorrow at a meeting. So hope all goes well with that. They were very good. They tailored their presentation to our questions, what we want in a DPW facility. They were excellent. It was very interesting, and it's great to be a part of that. Board of Health was last night. They are wrestling with some problems of sewerage, pump out of tight tanks, and getting all the information that they really need in a timely manner. So they had Wind River come and discussed with them. If they don't get the reports, we really need to go to a finding of them to get on board with what they need to be doing. And they are starting to look for maybe one new member. They have another person who might be needing to stop being on the committee just for family commitments and stuff. It's hard when you have a young family. CPC, the deadline on the liaison for Community Preservation Committee, the deadline was yesterday. 12 projects were submitted, and they range, I'll just read them quickly. Rockport Clean Harbors to clean up Rockport Harbor. Thatcher's Island Association to make improvements for the assistant keeper on Thatcher Island's house. Solar powered and security on Thatcher's Island. Rockport Art Association to restore the tavern building. Rockport Harbor Masters to do a float system in the South Harbor. Rockport Selectmen / Sarah Wilkinson to do Evans Field and Parisi Field upgrades. Cape Ann YMCA put a request in to help fund the splash park up at the new YMCA. The Rights of Way Committee with Joe Parisi also did a an application for the footbridge at Cape Edge to Long Beach. Rockport Concom to restore funds to the trust fund. Rockport Cultural District, Michelle Brown put in for the old firehouse trust renovations. DPW Beautification Committee put in for Harvey Park and Barletta improvements. And the Rockport Housing Authority put in for some replacements at Kitefield Road. So all of their things totaled $1,339,189. So they'll be busy looking at those. We've got our stacks on the liaison, so we'll be going through those. There'll be open meetings to listen to all the different projects, what they're asking for, if they're appropriate to fall into the different categories of CPC. So it'll be an interesting year. CPC does have quite a bit of money this year. They like to leave some in the bank for a rainy day or whatever, but I think it's going to be a very good and interesting year. Also, I just wanted to mention, I mentioned at the last meeting, we've been trying to look at the Tyler Silver House out at Halibut Point. Department of Conservation and Recreation owns it. They are in the process of renovating the park, and their plan is to tear the Tyler Silver House down. I mentioned it at the CPC meeting several months ago, and we tried to see if we could get it for affordable housing. But we've got all the sort of numbers in. I went over with Mitch and the building inspector. We also had a big packet from the DCR on it. Cost estimates are really going to be cost prohibitive to turn it in. We can't keep it on that site, so it would have to be moved. It is a very large building. We thought of some areas that we could move it to, but it's really going to be probably cost prohibitive just to even move it for affordable housing in town. So I don't think we're going to be able to go forward with it. We're going to meet with the DCR and discuss it with them. It would have been a perfect thing, but unfortunately it's not. It's just going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be over probably $700,000 just to renovate the house and make it it's a beautiful Queen Anne, beautiful house, but it's already been moved once from the beginning of the quarry all the way up Garfield Road to the beginning of Halibut Point. And it's their property. We can't make them keep it there or do anything, but I just felt like it was really important to try to preserve it for affordable housing, move it someplace else, seeing if we could put it as a two-family, sell it as that, and increase the stock in Rockport. But I don't feel it's going to, do you have any other comments, Mitch?
No, I agree. It was certainly important to do the due diligence on it, but unfortunately, I think that everything you indicated, it's just probably not feasible for us at this point, sadly.
Yeah, and I have asked, and they offered, the family that owns the house and used to own it, the DCR has mentioned that before it gets demolished, they hopefully will maybe let the family in to be able to take a couple of mementos from that house. It does have some beautiful stained glass windows that they would take out, obviously. The DCR would and put them someplace, but it has a beautiful, beautiful newel post and railings, and there's some beautiful fine details in that
Is
house.
any of that able to be saved? Would they let architectural salvage come in and save at least, if we can't save the whole building, can you save parts of it?
It's really not, and the bottom line is it's their property. It's a state-owned piece of property, and the red tape of them trying to sell it to someone else, have someone else move it, salvage it, or do any of it. They'll do what they can for money-wise, but I was just very happy that they entertained the motion of letting a family member go in, and I have spoken to that family member. I've got to get back in touch with her, but I did mention that, and she was very pleased to hear that might be able to be done, so that was just another thing. I think those are...
I have one more quick thing if you're
Okay, sure.
not
Yep,
done.
go ahead.
Just two reminders, actually. So they don't spring up last minute and people are aware of them. Two upcoming events or hearings or meetings, we'll call them. On the 18th, the DPW is having a fee review, and they'll be doing stickers and I'm sure bags and all that stuff. So that's, if anybody wants to attend that, please be aware of that. And on the 25th of this month, we'll be having the the fueling station, I don't want to call it a hearing, but kind of a get-together. Have we... Discussion, thank you. Have we decided on a location on that? Are we going to keep it here?
It will probably move. This is probably a little too cramped.
That's what I
just
figured.
for have to everybody at the same table. So
Okay.
we're looking at what some of those options would be. Most likely the community house, but TBD still. At
So
this
it was the
moment.
last time, so that's fine. So the 25th is the fueling station, the 18th is the DPW fee review. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mitch, do you have any?
So just one quick update. As everyone is aware, the board's budget was submitted on Friday to the Finance Committee. They confirmed receipt of that. We have since gotten particularly the number that we were holding on was the health insurance. They have not given us a final number, but we're
Yeah.
closer with, instead of budgeting for 7%, they've indicated we can use a placeholder of 5.5%, which is helpful, gives a bit more breathing room to everybody. So we're looking at, as indicated in the meeting, how that fleshes out now with some adjustments. So we're hoping to get the final number soon, but certainly very positive news for all of us.
Yeah.
Great.
That's a large portion of our budget, and if we can pare some of that back, that was certainly a nice positive.
Yeah,
Good.
wonderful.
So that's it for
Yep,
this evening.
okay. One other just update is that right now the police station is going through their accreditation process, and the accreditors are here for 3 days,
Mhm.
and hopefully we'll be re-accredited and have a nice plaque up there again. Okay, action list. First on it is Rockport Music Gala, Millbrook Meadow. If you'd like to come up to the table, Shannon and Tony, okay, great.
Hi, good
Hi.
evening. Shannon Mason, Chair of Millbrook Meadow Committee. If you need the address, 14 Granite Street here in Rockport. So we've entertained an application and request of use from Rockport Music to have the dinner in Millbrook Meadow, as they have done in multiple years past, for June the 5th. And the dinner is scheduled to start around 5:30 in the evening. The format has been changed a little bit, which follows the same as last year, but traditionally it's been concert first and then dinner. But the switch of last year's protocol was for the dinner first and then the concert was well received. So and it also allows for a little bit of time right after the dinner is done for the caterer and everyone to clear out and be done earlier in the meadow, which we feel is is advantageous for neighbors as well. So the committee did vote to approve the and recommend the request of use. I did want to bring one thing up about the fees associated with use in the meadow. A couple years ago, the committee has, and with your all's approval, the board's selectmen's approval, had an application for use, and that it has a suggested fee structure where we have used $1 per person with a $200 cap. Rockport Music, for the 3 years past that they've had the gala and using the meadow, has donated a total of $4,200 to the Essex County Community Fund that the committee has used for paying for the cost of the restoration project, which all of that has gone towards that. So I would like to just, remind you that, and those of the public that are interested, that Rockport Music has made significant contributions to the restoration project.
Great.
So, you all have any questions?
Any questions, Denise? Any
No.
questions, John?
No, I'm good. Chairman, right? Chairwoman now?
Yes, so it
Very
seems.
good. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you.
You have big shoes to fill, but you'll do a
Yes,
fine
that's
job.
true. Thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Any questions from the audience? Anything? No? Do I have a motion?
I'm guessing that's mine. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve Rockport Music's use of Millbrook Meadow on Friday, June 5th, 2020, for its annual gala.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? Nay. 3-0.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, ambulance billing rates. Mitch, I believe that's.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes.
Want to talk about that a little?
Yes. So, having just gone through the budget process, we realized this year that even having raised the fees a few months ago, we just made it with the skin of our teeth covering expenses for ambulance. We did have a significant increase to properly fund our night duty stipends and our coverage. But being so close this year made it abundantly clear we will not be able to do that next year without some type of increase in the rates now. Also, without any type of increase, we won't be able to continue to save for another ambulance.
Right.
So the fees that the board has in front of them, a group of us met, the individuals indicated in the memo, had a meeting to review what the current rates are. We looked at comparable data provided to us by the billing agency Comstar that has, I believe, a couple hundred other municipalities in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And we felt that these modest adjustments at this point were appropriate increases to not only cover operating expenses next year, but continue to allow us to build up for an ambulance.
Great. Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
You do. That makes total sense, Mitch. Yeah. I move that the Board of Selectmen set new ambulance rates for BLS emergency to $1,500, ALS 1 emergency to $2,550, and ALS 2 emergency to $3,550, per mile to $38, airway to $300, and oxygen to $300, effective February 1st, 2020. We can do-
Second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
We
3
got
to
'em.
0. Carries. Great. That's really important because, like you said, we were doing the budget and we didn't have enough in the ambulance reserve budget to budget for the replacement and upgrade of ambulance number 2. So hopefully this will really increase that for next year and the committee will be great for next year. Okay, next is approval of UCAN and YMCA road races for 2020. Folks, would you like to go up and, yeah? Tell us what's coming, tell us what's coming up, what roads to avoid. Get out of town early, come back late. No.
My name is Rich Morell. I'm at 43 Stockholm Ave, and I organize the UCAN road races. This is Barb.
Carol.
Carol, pardon me.
I used
Sorry,
to,
I'm
it used to
under
be
the weather.
Barb.
Yep, forgive me.
Carol Meyer with the YMCA of the North Shore. Do you need my home address?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. Fine.
And I'm doing the Father's Day 5K.
Wonderful.
So we have a number of races. It's the same schedule that we had this past year.
Mhm.
Most of them actually start and finish over in Gloucester, but they pass through Rockport. The one that starts and finishes in Rockport is in August. And it starts and finishes at the high school, so I need to ask permission to use the parking lot at the high school again. But otherwise, no changes, same courses, same schedule.
Yeah.
Happy to answer any questions anybody might have about those races.
No. I don't think so. We didn't have any complaints about any problems last year, did we?
No issues
Yeah.
that I'm aware of, and the
Yeah.
police have reviewed all of these, and the chief has opined on where he wants details.
And we're just making sure that we are on our downtown notification list that goes out as well. We're still utilizing that
We
well.
will send the list out if approved.
Perfect.
And
Good.
and we're using the big signboard usually too out front
Yes,
to say
now that we
that
have
they're.
a second one, we can get
Yeah.
some use of that one.
Yeah, so that's really helpful to have that big signboard out to remind people of, Saturday morning, there's a race on Sunday or whatever, what days they are to go back the Lanesville way or whatever way out of town. So, great. Any questions of anyone? Or they're great and they're hugely, popular and they get busier and busier every year.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, do a great job, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do I have a motion?
You do. I move that the board approve UCAN road races to be held as follows. 1 on 4/5/20, 1 on 5/2/20, 3 on 8/2/20, 1 on 8/10/18/20, and 2 on 12/6/20, and all signs and trash to be picked up after the end of the race.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3 to 0. Great, wonderful. And do I have a motion for the Rockport Father's 5-Day K?
Indeed. I move that the board approve the YMCA's annual Father's Day road race to be held on June 21st, 2020, and all signs and trash to be picked up after the race.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
three. That
Great.
was the late aye.
Congratulations.
Great, thank
Thanks
you.
so much. I
Thank you
appreciate
again.
that.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're welcome. And next, our discussion item is tree policy. Don, would you like to tell us about the tree policy?
Don Southard, 33 Straitsmith. I submit a tree policy for consideration by the board This tree policy has been reviewed by town administrator and town attorney. As all of us know from Biology 1, trees' leaves absorb CO2 and ozone through photosynthesis and create oxygen. It's one of nature's most powerful carbon sequestering mechanisms. It is therefore an effective global warming mitigator. Trees also provide shade, reduce noise pollution, provide habitat, increase home values, and improve aesthetics, helping attract visitors and businesses while improving the qualities of life for us all. It is thought that if the world would plant 1 trillion trees, we would reduce carbon in the atmosphere by 50%. It was this premise our group started about 6 months ago. After doing the math, Rockport's fair share of 1 trillion trees by square miles is 75,000 trees. After trying to find land and landowners that would support such a daunting task, we decided a more prudent approach would be to create a tree policy for Rockport which would identify, protect, and increase our existing urban forest. Our quest began. We searched current tree policies and found 4 towns with very similar policies: Salem, Cambridge, Lexington, and Newton. Many of these are decades old and in many respects are followed without hesitation or without much ado. We cut and pasted these and added our own thoughts into the policy you have in front of you. And we, as part of the Cape Ann Global Warming Initiative, this policy will be a model for other towns in Cape Ann. I'll briefly summarize what the submission says, but there's 8 pages, and it's, I think, pretty understandable. We cut a lot of the language out and made it simplified it. So the purpose is preserve and protecting both public trees and certain private property trees. To do this, we ask the board to allow us to establish a tree committee and a part-time tree warden and empower us to regulate the removal and replacement of in certain circumstances and to provide the planting and protection of trees throughout the town. We believe it is desirable to plant more trees than are removed. The provision pertains to private property applies only when there's major demolition occurring. Our efforts will start by creating volunteer tree committee 5 and hire a tree warden part-time. These individuals will be tasked to manage all trees within the public rights of way, raise and expend funds for planting of trees on town land, seek grants and other assistance to preserve and maintain trees in the town, and develop a tree manual which will contain the rules and regulations, species, and size of trees covered by the policy. We will also create a tree inventory using a really powerful GIS database that has been collected over the number of years. I think we've agreed to upgrade that this year with another flyover. It's sort of like Google Map, but it identifies every tree in Rockport along with other things, of course. But our thought is to create a tree inventory to start with, and then using that tree inventory, develop a 5-year plan to recreate Rockport urban forest as it was many, many years ago. The protection portion of it is public shade tree may not be cut down or pruned without a written permit from the tree warden. Private property removal plan of protected trees during major construction shall be submitted to the building inspector. Such plans will include trees of 6 inches in diameter or more and species of trees deemed protected in the tree manual. This plan will be referred to the tree warden and will conduct a site visit, and results will be sent to the planning board or zoning board of appeals. Exemptions: emergency work like National Grid, trees that are hazardous or ready to come down, trees on land that are being developed for affordable housing, trees on lots designating as woodlots. We'll work closely with Concom, who will have jurisdiction if we overlap. And the proposed structure would be tree committee members reporting approved by the Board of Selectmen. Tree committee reports to the DPW commissioners, and the tree warden reports to the tree committee and the DPW director. Respectfully submitted, Don Southard, member, Rockport Tree Hugger Society.
Very good. Thank you, Don.
Before
Thank
you go,
Yep. How about some questions, Denise?
Do you mind?
Sure.
So, Don, would you also please talk about the initiative that you've started to plant trees through the high school and the work you've been doing with the green community?
Okay. All right.
So the very small committee
name
of
and
Laura
address.
Hallowell, 37 High Street, a member of this very small committee. So we have heard from the Green Team that this year they do not particularly want to be actively involved in planting and caring for trees. So the other members of this small committee and I have decided to go forward with procuring, this is decided yesterday, it could change, but the current plan is to procure saplings, bare root saplings through the Arbor Day Foundation and offer them, we're not sure whether it's for nominal cost or free, at Motif Number 1 day at a booth. And it happens to be the same day as the plant sale, so it might be loosely coordinated, but in two different places because the tree effort really wants to emphasize the climate change aspect of it. So we're going forward with that, and we'll try to make those arrangements. It's a small start, but if we get 100 trees out there, that's 100 trees. So, and then that builds for
Separate
another
effort
year.
altogether.
Yeah.
So-
Great. Thank you. So Denise, did you want to?
No, obviously I have had conversations with Don about this, and I think, Laura, at one meeting I was, yeah, we were all together. So I think it's a great idea. I know how much work has gone into this, and how much due diligence the group has done in looking at other towns' bylaws, trying to make this reasonable, and really trying to do our part. I think in particular, this is especially important because of all of the specimen trees that we've lost due to the drought, followed by the gypsy moss and the winter moss.
Yeah.
You know, when you walk in the woods, it's just so much devastation. It's really upsetting. So I think that calls for even more focus on what these folks have brought forward. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Don?
Please. So I'm reading through this in the first, on Statement of Purpose, Part 2. It says the tree warden to regulate the removal and replacement of trees in certain circumstances. How does that square with the, how do I want to say this? With home ownership, with people, does that mean that the tree warden, however we want to phrase that, would be able, if they see a tree that needs something, can go to private property?
Yeah.
How does that, where does the line cross?
Yeah, that's a
here, I
good
guess?
question.
I think Mitch has a comment
Sure.
to that too.
Just to give a little additional context on what's there. So, excuse me, that was the first pass through. My notes are on the side of that. The implementation of the policy is something that is going to take some time. Don and I had a long conversation about, particularly in those areas where it may involve zoning or other requirements, how we need to carefully inject this into that process, working with the planning board and the zoning board and the building inspector. So some of it is still, it will be a work in process since we've not had something before. So how exactly it would roll out is still a bit to be determined. Tonight is a bit more on the conceptual piece of things, and then if the board says, okay, happy to have you move forward, we can start to then work on the specifics of things. So the exact piece of it is yet to be known.
I think it's a great idea. I'm not opposed to it. Don't misunderstand. What I have a problem with the nuances of it, because the devil's always in the details. And if there's something in here that prohibits people from doing something on their own land, or somebody who owns a lot of land that is not developed but wants to, but is prohibited because there's whatever species of tree or what have you, that presents an imbalance or an inequity that I think should have remedies attached to it, rather than hard and fast rule set, because not everything is so clearly delineable. I mean, when you get to a circumstance, it's each one is individual in there. So, but to say regulate, I just have a concern with that, and I know we're in the beginning phases.
Yeah,
so-
this was drafted initially as a bylaw, so some of the terminology would shift a bit, being a
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
Good.
And
So,
I-
yeah, if I could,
Sure.
we have
Please.
I think it's a good question, and I've talked to a couple of the tree wardens from the towns that we sort of vetted to put this together, and that part of it is it does have to be carefully worded, and I don't think we have so much to do. I don't think the intent is to go on private land and tell people what they can and can't do. So that's it is a good point, though. It does sort of indicate that. So we've got a lot of work to do, and we'll be back here a couple times with the underlying data.
You don't misunderstand. I'm not.
No,
I'm
I
not
know.
implying nefarious
No, it's
intent.
good,
I'm
it's
just.
good.
I'm just trying to be cautious because sometimes when you have valid environmental concerns and couple that
Yeah.
with people just trying to live their lives,
Yeah.
the two can be at odds, and
Yeah.
it creates problems.
I'm with you.
And the language again it really holds weight on this. So
I'm with you.
thank you.
Okay.
So I think any of our concerns, we need to voice to them so they can add into this document. I mean, I also are concerned that needs to be, I know multiple times in town, people have felt like the trees across the street are blocking their view, and they're going to be looking to you to have these trees trimmed or something like that. So that, all those little nuances have to be in there to protect people from having other people want to do things and stuff. I think, I'll get to you in just a sec, Tobe. I think another wonderful, not related to this policy or whatever, is we got notice from the Institution for Savings. And what a wonderful thing that's going to be. They're doing their 200th anniversary. I'm on the
Fantastic.
board. And for their year, all during April, they're going to do for Earth Day. They're going to do 200 trees to 13 communities where their banks are. And they're looking at giving us 15 Princeton elms with the big root ball and everything. So that would be
Fantastic.
just a
Yeah, those are-
beautiful kickoff to something like
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
I mean, it is just so great. And they used to have the tree farm. I don't know what is in that area, or if it's any place where they can dig up or store some of those if we didn't have a place to put them right now. Oh, but, okay. But anyway, I mean, oh, okay. But anyway, we need to all of us need to start thinking of those beautiful elms of where they're going to be going. They're going to be delivered if we accept them the week of April 13th in a big root ball and everything. And that's
That'd be a
gonna
good name for an event. The Root Ball. How's that?
Very good, Don.
At no extra charge.
as trees.
Yeah, right. We can pick our species.
The Root Ball.
Toby.
I think it's totally understanding, and I think it's a wonderful idea, and thank you to the people who brought it forward. What will be done on town property, you can start, right away, barring what money might be needed. But I, for once, agree with Mr. Campbell, the devil in the details when you're talking about private property. And the first question is whether you intend to put it, the regulations into the code of bylaws and the zoning bylaw. And I would think you have some thoughts on that, and then direct the people who have made the huge effort in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. And Eric?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Eric Hutchins, 45 Pools Lane, and I'm working a little bit on this, and we'll try to follow it as it morphs into whatever it is. But I think a little bit, an additional piece of background is worth putting on the table, since you brought it up about the tree farm. My gut is up to about 25 years ago, roughly about the time that I moved back, there was a lot of tree advocacy in Rockport. We had a tree warden, and shade trees needed to go through a permitting and notification process. I believe there's laws that are still in the books that technically are still supposed to be implemented, that we need to look into those a little bit under the state laws on, there's still shade tree laws. We need to explore a little bit of what we're supposed to be doing already. It all seemed to have fallen apart a little bit in Rockport. So trees were coming down to build sidewalks in the south end. I know that Julie and I made comments on that. The tree farm, almost all effort in that tree farm, which used to be on Applecott Road, there were probably 100 different trees planted there. I don't think I saw one ever pulled up and planted. The town lost its effort trees were being cut down on all the old intersections, but with no effort on replanting. So we need in principle, in policy, to get that ball rolling a little bit. So what are we already supposed to be doing? The tree farm. So it's great to even, they're going to have us 15 trees. Do we as a town even have our act together enough to find a place to put those 15 trees? We need to get to the point where we are engaging this in principle concept, and hopefully in time with some rules and regulations. But we got a ways to go with policy for sure.
Yeah, but it's a great start. I mean, absolutely, in all ways. And then just getting the Institution for Savings trees and that is a big kickoff for this too. Any other comments?
No.
Well, thank you for presenting that, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if, Madam Chair, if the board's consensus is to proceed forward, I can work with Mr. Southard on making the actual changes in the language, and we can start to further the discussions on the topic.
I
Great.
think
So
so.
if that's
I
a
think so.
consensus to
I'm
move
good
forward.
with that.
Yep.
Do we have
Thanks.
do we have any kind of a time frame on this? What we're looking at, like, do you have you're looking at 6 months, 3 months, a year?
I think it'll take us, we're looking for 4 volunteers to start. And I think we sort of settled on being able to afford a part-time tree
So
warden sometime.
We look to include that in the next
Next year budget.
operating budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
So
And
my
DPW.
guess is probably a year or so.
So that changes things a bit. Not that it's, but we're looking to add this is going to be an additional employee to the town?
So down the road for FY '21, the request would be for a part-time employee. So we currently have the tree warden responsibilities assigned to one of our DPW foremen, probably one of the busiest divisions. He carries out what he has to with it, but there's just not enough time. There's no actual focus on it because he simply has too many other things on his plate. He addresses trees and tree trimming and management as they're needed in probably more of a reactive way than even he would like. The thought would be to truly provide some focus in this area, and not only from my perspective in reforestation in different areas of town, but in managing what we have and in cataloging and actually knowing what we need to do properly. I think right now it's a lot of gray area and things just kind of happen with trees. This would provide a bit more attention to it, and I think a part-time position for the board to consider, and it'd be in the budget process. The board could say yes or no at that time.
Next year. Yeah.
So
And
it
I-
would
Look,
be
I
something that's a
think
recommendation.
talking about somebody who's doing it now, and perhaps we should look at repurposing somebody who is already on the payroll. I mean, I'm just hesitant right
You
now.
could. I think that discussion is a
Yeah,
year
I think
out.
that's, I know it's
Yeah.
premature, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really the way
Sure.
I would go, is to look in that direction.
So, but yes, we look in FY '21 cycle to say, okay, how can we,
Yep.
excuse me,
22.
22 cycle, thank you, 22 cycle,
21 already.
how we
Yeah.
could make something work one
Yep.
way or another.
Good.
And it would be important to have the is it Chuck who does it now?
Chuck, the public properties foreman is currently the warden, yes.
Yeah, and
his
he
spare
could,
time.
yeah, and he could help with, is he on the committee or helping with it and
He hasn't
putting
been
any
on.
ideas in and
No.
anything of, because he's been doing it a long time of different nuances and things too, to have that on that committee.
And
So-
I think there's also kind of another angle to this, and that is the liability to the town of the trees that aren't being maintained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one in front of my house that's probably a danger. And I know that's just one tree, and I'm sure if one of those limbs, which are pretty heavy, fell during a storm on a passing car, wouldn't be good. So,
Okay. Toby?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. You got 10.
Back up, that's it. There you go.
Sorry. You got $10,000, a settlement out of one of my vandals' neighbors, 46 Granite Street, who hacked down a large oak tree on Granite Pier. Whatever became of the $10,000?
has she paid it? It was paid in
It was
installments.
paid, I'll have to
It was paid,
ask
and
the
I think,
director.
I think Joe has talked about that at the DPW Commissioners meeting, and they have that sitting aside, waiting
I'll
for
check with him,
something.
I'm not sure what he's got.
Good question, but I know there was that settlement, yep.
Right, that should buy some trees, including at least one small one to go back on Granite Pier.
Yep, very good.
Yeah, there were some stipulations on,
Yeah.
attached with that money,
Yeah.
so I don't know that it could
Yeah.
go beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
It was supposed to purchase a replacement tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
ask Joe what the status is with that.
Okay, yes, Laura?
Laura Hallowell, 37 High Street. Just a question with the Institute for Savings. The town would be responsible for preparing the site and providing the soil and stuff? So are there expenditures that the town is going to have to use
I would
to
assume so,
accept
yes. If
those
they're gonna give us the
trees?
trees, we have to figure out where they're gonna
So
go and,
just wondering again.
right, we just
Sure.
got the information in a
Okay.
letter from them 2 days ago.
All right, so we don't know
So we
much.
don't know anything yet.
Okay.
I certainly will mention it when we have our March meeting to thank them, because that's a wonderful thing. We haven't even accepted it yet. We just got the information and the notice, I think, on Friday, so.
Yes, I've given a tentative, we're very interested answer to
Yep.
Kim Rock, so
Yep.
she's going to keep us on the list. The DPW budget does carry some funding associated with trees. We have a nursery stock budget and things like that. So soil and materials, et cetera, we do have some stockpiles at the facility right now. Depends on what's there and depends on where we opt to put them.
Yeah.
When you're not using soil to fix water main breaks, unfortunately.
That was exciting.
Correct. It was a tough
I
weekend
saw
for that.
trucks ripping by with dirt going all over
Yes,
the
yeah,
town.
there was an
That
air bubble
tough.
in the system. I
And
think that
the
caused
ones
some
that
of
they're gonna give us are approximately 15 feet tall.
Wow, good size.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Fif-
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
15 feet tall and will grow to 50 to 70 feet at maturity.
Nice.
I mean, what?
Those will
what
be
a-
very majestic
yeah,
trees when they're
Yeah,
mature.
and they showed a picture on the thing you sent us, but that's just wonderful. Any other unanticipated items or things? I just have one other announcement, and that was that the DPW is having their third hearing on Harvey and Barletta Park outreach meeting, the number 3 meeting, and that's going to be Monday, this next Monday, the 10th, at 7 p.m. at the Community House. And they're going to have some concept plans of the different things that we've brainstormed and people have thought of for Harvey and Barletta. So that would be very interesting. They're going to be showing those overviews and talking about different areas and what they're thinking of doing from the input they got back from the different people who were at the meeting. So that will be very interesting. This coming Monday, the 10th, February 10th at 7 p.m. in the Community House.
And while we're on the DPW, just a shout out to the DPW who did a great job with those water main
absolutely.
breaks we just talked about. They had one, and then on the heels of that, another one.
They had 3 of them.
Was it 3 total?
3
It
of
was
them.
3.
They
Okay,
had
I
Pigeon
stand
Hill
corrected.
Street, Lucia Lane,
Yeah.
and
Old
Penzance,
They did a great job and really,
all in
yeah.
2 days.
So thank you to the DPW crew.
Yeah, they worked late Friday night on our street.
And then had the
Then
two-
had Saturday, they had Eden Road.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And
Penzance
when was the
and
third one?
Lucia Lane down by there.
Must have missed one.
God.
I was getting the
Lucia
updates,
Lane
but I
and
missed them. I must have missed them.
Penzance.
Lucia and Old Penzance were
Yeah.
right next to each other.
Yeah.
One was the effect of the other, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, Eric.
Sorry I wasn't able to get here earlier. I was at a Cape Ann Trail Stewards meeting, and there were two brief things I wanted to bring up. One was when you were talking about the affordable housing option for DCR building, which kind of reminded me of something that I just recently explored, and unfortunately just found certainly Rockport's just not prepared. And as many of you know, I worked with as the executor of Ted Tarr's property, and it came to mind, actually, Julie raised the option of the possibility of that house being used for affordable housing. And, you know, it's not my thing, so to speak, but I explored it briefly, went into it a little deeper, and in the end, Rockport's not ready
Yeah.
to embrace an opportunity when it's presented. And from a starting point, it made me think, almost every house that's valued roughly, let's call it below 350,000, almost should be on a list somewhere, and then we're ready for when opportunities come up. But there's not many. There's very, 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 very few
You find
houses.
one, let me know.
Yeah, there's not many. And I felt bad. I mean, I didn't own it. I was executor. But there was a window of opportunity. It was just not going to work. I was like, okay, does Rockport have this ready? Oh, town meeting, another town meeting. No, it couldn't work. But we need to be prepared. Like even the DCR one is $1 million project. I mean, that's probably crazy. It's just maybe it's a $2 million project, move it and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I did look into it. And
And that was
I,
too
as a
bad that didn't
potential
work.
advocate, saw
Yeah.
like, we're just not even ready as a town. The other thing, I'm sorry, just to bring that up, and then the other one, I just left the Cape Ann Trail Stewards meeting, and I know the Cape Ann Trail Stewards have been in touch with the administrator's office, and I saw that there was some road races coming up. I just wanted to put it on the table and find out when you think it might be on your agenda. Last year, we've done for 2 years in a row, the Cape Ann Trail Stewards. We maintain the trails in Dogtown and throughout Essex, Manchester, Rockport, and Gloucester, to the potential of moving the starting point of our race this year to Summit Hill instead of Old Dogtown Road in Gloucester. But our race is in May, which is not a lot of lead time. And so I just want to throw it out there. I know it's not on your agenda yet.
So, well, because we haven't gotten some answers back yet.
Oh.
So my office manager reached out. We needed to know, the request was sent in without the number of vehicles that were going to be associated,
Oh,
where
okay.
people were going to park, how they were going to get up there. And that was one of the prime concerns before we could even send it to the police. What are we going to do with the neighborhood?
Yeah.
So once we get those, and she may have them now, but
Oh, okay.
I know they weren't there as of Friday.
Okay.
So once we get those answers, then we can look to book that, but we've got to solve that issue first.
Yep, if that's
Okay.
all
Yeah, I
fine,
just
that
happened to be
sounds
at the meeting,
wonderful.
told him I was
Yeah.
coming here tonight.
Yeah.
It's Summit Hill's a beautiful, near the water tower
Yeah.
up there. It's a beautiful place to start it. And any of you have been at Old Rockport Road over in Gloucester? It's not such a
No,
nice place. No
That would be
offense.
beautiful up there. That would
Thank
be
you.
a beautiful start. Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.